Welcome to Sideline to Baseline. What's up, everybody? With your hosts, MB and K Lou. MB out the building, y'all, and Pac Jam. You know, he back, man. And we
Better
may
know it.
have Jason coming to holler at y'all again. Jay Brock from South Carolina, man, supporting Clemson. Y'all already know what time it is with Pac Jam. Pac Jam got on his orange and green.
No, that's red, black, and green, brother.
Yeah.
Get it together. Get it together.
Hey, the color, I'm colorblind.
That's what I'm here for.
Hey, so look, y'all, them Crimson Tide, BAMA in the building, Pac Jam repping. You know this my favorite time of the year because I love college football. Pac Jam love Alabama. I love college football, y'all. So I'm gonna be all over the place. We gonna highlight Alabama, Miami. I think that's the feature. You know what, Pat? We talked Noah about 20 years ago. It's been 20 years since Miami done anything, but I'm not starting a conversation yet. But I just want to put out there's still a highlight. You know, this is still a big game. Because of the unknown, because you don't know what they coming up with. So nostalgia creeps in and you like, boy, they might have some this year. Yeah. So, it gives the alumni, the fans a ton of hope, and they get to go to the A again and party anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So the party gonna go down anyway. I'm sure a lot of the Bama alumni done checked in already.
No, that game is next week. It's Labor Day weekend.
Oh man. I thought it what highlighted on
The game that kicks off tomorrow is Illinois and Nebraska play tomorrow on Fox.
Well, I'm gonna hold off on all that talk because I sure thought when I pulled it up, oh yeah, y'all, that thing say 9 clear as day. When I looked at my schedule on
But it's still discussion worthy
online,
because it's
no, it ain't no bowl game. They ain't playing for nothing. We ain't gonna give them that long talk. But it's some, almost scrapped that one. Jason obviously spoke a little bit last week about the Georgia-Clemson game. So win that game, Pac Jam. That ain't tomorrow either.
That game is next week as well.
Golly, so we starting off with some foolery. So
Well,
whatever
not really.
happened
I
to the
mean, the
kickoff?
fans are ready. I mean, it's a great fans are ready to discuss this thing, man.
Whatever happened to the kickoff?
Well, again, like I just said, I said Iowa, Nebraska kicks it off tomorrow on Fox at 1:00.
Man, listen, we tuning in for one reason. Let me end that game, in that conversation right now. We tuning in to that for one reason and one reason only. To see if this the year that Scott Frost go down. Because the countdown.
Scott Frost is on he's on the hot seat. They have a new AD. The new AD has already told him. The new AD is a former 4-time All-American NFL guy. You might know him by the name of Trev Albert. He is the AD. And it's already been explained to Scott Frost that they want to see change. So remember, that's not, like it's just like in the NFL, like in professional sports, Scott Frost is not his guy. You know what I mean? Just like a general manager, when he takes over a franchise and a head coach that he didn't hire, that's not his guy. So just know that you will be, looked at a little more intently. And I'll be the first to tell you that I still think Scott Frost has a good chance. And the reason why I say that is because when you look at the overall landscape of the Big Ten, Scott Frost should be able to pull off 8 games this year.
Well, Trent gonna make us go ahead and jump in the water a little bit. I wanted to say that for MB. But I guess we got to step in the water a
Might as well.
little bit.
MB ain't gonna touch it anyway. He not. We go dive in
Oh
and talk
no!
to Trent.
Listen, he gonna talk big now, all the way up the kickoff. Then he gonna turn it off and look at his phone. Be watching other games, checking the scope. So Trent say Miami's gonna shut a lot of people up when they beat Bama. So Trent, you got to do better than that. You can't just shoot that to us and not shoot a why. Cause that just sounds crazy. That sounds like you put everything out. You put your whole house on games in Vegas every time you go. That's what that comment sounds like. So you got to bring us back home and tell us why.
That's closer. What's up, man?
Jay Brock, what's good?
What's up, man?
Hey,
we got a different guy today. What's going on?
Yeah.
Hey, what's up, Jay Brock?
This Pac Jam, man, aka my brother.
Trent Williams.
So look,
I don't think that's happening.
I brought a match for you. Listen, both of y'all out talk me, both of y'all will shut me up. But what I want to know is, can y'all shut each other up?
Oh man, I mean, we shut him up year before last. We'll get him again.
Cause you done already peeped game on that hat, huh, Jason?
I mean, hey, all games aside, dude, they can say whatever they want right now. Somebody's got to knock them off before we can't shut them up to spike the ball. But
Jason, let's get into that, because there was a point, like, not just Clemson fans, but we all thought that you guys had to climb the mountain, and that you were kicking that Alabama, that big old A, down the hill, and you were gonna take your rightful place. So, I mean, it's not that your program has gotten worse, but they're no longer in that conversation. You get what I mean? We're all screaming Alabama again, whether we like it or not.
I don't think that's the case. I mean, we got put out.
I'm wrong.
Well, we got put out in the playoffs. It ain't like we missed the playoffs. It ain't like we lost in the championship game. We lost one bad game without the best quarterback in America last year. Against I want to say good team, but a playing above average team, Notre Dame. I don't think Notre Dame was top 5 last year, but they had a game of their life at home, and we didn't have our quarterback. So I think that's the chink in the armor more so that's kind of, to what you said, take us out of the conversation. I don't think it's necessarily the loss in the playoffs. I mean, Ohio State was a good team. Ohio State does not match up well with Alabama at all. Like they are.
But Jason, I want to interrupt there. What I'm saying is, after you guys beat them, won it all,
killed them.
To a lot of us, you were favored, and if not favored, you was at least mentioned to do it all over again, and there was an argument for it nationally. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't a South Carolina thing; it was a national argument about it. And I'm saying nobody had that last year. Nobody's having it this year.
Well, I mean, what have you done for me lately is what it comes down to. I mean, we got exposed a little bit against Ohio State in secondary. I mean, I don't think people – so, for example, Alabama got taken out of the conversation when we dismantled them. Remember
Correct.
that?
And that's what I'm saying, right.
Yeah, it's just a natural cycle. I mean, I think that –
But they were right back in it the next year. You know what I'm saying? Like, but you guys haven't had that. That's what I'm arguing. I was arguing for you guys, and now I'm like, dang.
Well, I guess what I was building up to is I don't think that they were. Because you got to think they didn't have Tagovailoa going into that next year. I don't think they were necessarily.
Yeah, but they were loaded on offense.
Yeah, but I thought we were just talking about the national conversation part of it, though.
Correct. Well, and that's why they were.
I didn't get the same vibe. I mean, everybody knew they were going to be Alabama, but no, I don't think anybody thought they were going to be world beaters again going into that next year. They had some.
Jam, jump in there, man.
I think the thing is this. I think what's not being discussed is this: the year that Clemson knocked us off real decent in the national championship game, they returned with their star-studded quarterback came back the following year. But what's not being discussed is if you look when Trevor Lawrence came back the following year after they beat Alabama, if you look at that season, their following year, just go to preseason before they play the game, and you look at Alabama after going 13-0 last season, and now they come back this year and receive 31 number one votes, and nobody in America could name our top receiver, top running back, or top quarterback. But yet the coaches found reason to give us 31 votes to be number one in the country. So I think the argument is that people are seeing that Alabama is legitimately heads and shoulders above everyone because you guys' quarterback returns because he played some games. He's a 5-star guy. He played some games last year for you guys when Trevor Lawrence was out. But yet you didn't receive 10 number one votes, but here Alabama have to put a new quarterback, new receivers, new running back, a young team, but people are still convinced they're the team to beat. So I think what Kevin is saying is that's what we're saying where Alabama's head and shoulders of everybody else, because when have we ever seen a team gain 31 number one votes and nobody in America can name the starting quarterback?
And Jason, that's what I was saying. Like I was feeling like that Clemson was entering that territory. And I'll make a comparison. You know, before Brady left New England, that's how we all felt about them. You know what I mean? You were going to talk about them in the Super Bowl conversation, and you didn't know who was blocking for Brady or who was catching for him.
Right. I think that it's also a little bit of a recency bias, right? I mean, Clemson being what they are, but they are new to the dance. Comparatively.
Yeah.
So they don't get the same but that Alabama gets. Right. You know what I mean? Like, get dropped 44-16. I like how you said it decent. I prefer dismantle, but we'll call it whatever. But you get that but that next year. Hey, come on, I get to say that, man. We lost y'all so much. But but Alabama gets that but the next offseason. Like Clemson ain't quite got the but yet. Like the but they're Clemson. So I think it's more that than any other X's and O's of it. I think as Clemson, if we can, I don't want to say if Clemson remains and continues, I think you're going to see us get that but that anybody else would have had, like Florida State before or Miami even before. I think it's just that. I think it's just Clemson is on the cusp of that but that Ohio State even has, for example, right? Like Ohio State did not look good against Alabama last year. They got that but this offseason. It's like, they're Ohio State.
Hey, I'm going to jump in again, Jason, and say that but always goes to Notre Dame, and I have to argue with my brother every year as he tells me every reason why they're not going to be playing in the Final Four, and I say, but it's the gold helmet, buddy. Hey, listen, we've had knockout dragouts on the phone, and he's convinced that there's no way they get in. In fact, I tell you, it's Notre Dame.
Yeah, because it's like, every year. Because actually, I'm frustrated with them because I'm tired of the same press conference I'm getting every year from Coach Kelly. And every year he says the exact same thing in the press conference. We got to get bigger. We got to get faster. We got to get stronger. So my thing is, we've beaten you to death every time we played you, and you keep saying the same thing. We got to get bigger. We got to get faster. We got to get stronger. They just had way more athletes than we had. And every year, that same guy's arguing why they need to be in the four, and they get in the four again and get blowed out again. So that's why me and Kevin go at it, because I'm like, there's like, why they keep doing this? I understand, and Kevin's like, toward the gold helmet, you don't understand. It's like, but why though? You know what I'm saying?
Alumni, I guess. I mean, it's got to be, you got, what is it, Golick, Mike Golick out there, singing their praises.
Yeah, but their alumni is all from the 80s. But I realized the brand, and what their brand is and what falls behind their brand, the monies that come with it, you know what I mean? So I guess it's like the Dallas Cowboys, you know what I'm saying? It's just their brand is so huge that if you get them in the four, they know the TV networks know they're going to get high ratings if they get Notre Dame in that four.
Dallas is an excellent comparison there because why are they, you know what I mean? Like Dallas kind of gets that but every year. Some of that's the NFC East, but okay, the Eagles have won the Super Bowl and the Giants, it's like, Washington doesn't even have a name. So it's like, they're just kind of butted partially because of the division, but that's an excellent comparison because I don't think anybody's ever, except for that 1 year, they were 13-3 when they played Dak Prescott like a 10-year-old on Madden. Check down Charlie. And Ezekiel Elliott, that was before he went to Cancun for running back camp. So, that 1 year they were good. But other than that, that's.
But they only won 4 playoff games in 25 years, so we can't say they was that good.
No, yeah. And I think 3 of them were 1 year, right?
But again, like I said, I just feel that I don't like people when they compare Clemson to Alabama because my thing is I just feel you got to do more when you talk on the national level because they're like you got 2 national championships, but when you look at what Alabama has done within the last 10 years, it's second to none. So you know what I'm saying? So I put Clemson. I put Clemson right there with Ohio State. I put them on the ranking together. I think they're on the same level together. But I think Bama's over both of them when you look at the body of work.
And echo Trent's sentiment so we can get a listener on here. Those preseason votes are based on popularity, and I think both of you guys are talking about that. Jump on in.
Well, the thing is, I don't necessarily like to say that it's based on popularity as much as it's based on what they returned and what they recruited. Because if we look at what teams returned and what they recruited, the top 5, top 6 is pretty much what it should be. When you look at what they recruited and what they returned.
So Alabama, Oklahoma,
even Iowa State, that was respectful for Iowa State. Right, even with Iowa State, Texas A&M, those teams, what they returned and what they recruited, that's about right.
Mm-hmm.
People, and I think what happens is a lot of fans, a lot of college football fans, I say this, a lot of them pay a lot of attention to their team and they pay attention to recruiting for their team, but they don't pay attention to those power teams that they don't like. They don't pay attention to their recruiting because they understand more why they up there all the time.
Well, speaking of that, Pac Jam, when you're not talking Alabama, you generally talk SEC. So, Jason, tell Pac Jam why the SEC, although gets the yeah, but and they're the dominant conference, so they should get 3 out of the 4 teams that we pick. Tell them why the ACC is not their little brother and can stand up to them, any day of the week.
Just look at the head-to-head.
Wow.
I mean, the SEC is just top-heavy. I mean, well, okay, if we're being honest, the SEC is Alabama, is what it is. It's invitational, and then LSU had a free agent quarterback 1 year. Really, I mean, all Georgia does is make just enough noise to do nothing. That's all that you're going to come out of there. Mississippi State will show you a little something in the middle of the year. Ole Miss will have a wild play here and there. Florida, you know what I mean? Florida, I don't know. Everything matters. You know what I mean? They'll look good against Georgia in the rivalry game. Okay. I mean, the SEC is Alabama. Oh, Auburn every now and then. But gosh, it's like leap year for Auburn. You know what I mean?
It sure is.
For Auburn, it's really only
Alabama game. Alabama. Yeah, it's like you don't know who's going to show up for Auburn other than when they play Alabama.
Yeah, I mean, with the ACC, now I get it when you're saying top heavy, just like it was when it was Florida State. But as we were making our rise, Florida State was still at the top. So we were kind of the Auburn, to their Alabama till we had to knock them off. But you look at some of the ACC teams, I mean, you just seem to they're more a player or 2 away. You know what I mean? It just seems like everything in the SEC after Alabama, and I can even give it Auburn, after that, there's just so many more question marks. I don't know. It just seems that the Kirby Smart thing's really quickly not working out, in my opinion. I mean, I just don't know that. We'll see. Maybe this is a year. But if this ain't the year, it didn't work out. I mean, They didn't hire him to spend that money to go to that championship game and blow it like they did. So this is the make it or break it year because another mediocre year. I mean, that bowl loss was awful. So I think it's just Alabama. It's a 1-team conference, and going and getting Oklahoma and Texas, that was awful. That is more embarrassing, I think, to the SEC than the Big 12, and it's very embarrassing for the Big 12. Like, what's the gain for the SEC there? Like, you don't need Boomer Sooner. I don't know it's a one-team conference, and it's going to be very difficult for anybody to make a comparison that says otherwise. Because what else you got really from a
I
consistent?
don't think that's a fair assessment to say we're a one-team conference, because what you're looking at is you're looking at the dominance of one team, but yet you're not realizing that the Florida Gators went 11-1, 11-2, 11-1. The Florida Gators was just as good as any team in ACC outside of Clemson. The Florida Gators, remember, the Florida Gators was there. They didn't make the college playoff because they lost an SEC championship to Alabama. They had a great team last year.
But what was?
If you look outside of that, LSU their problem has been they can't beat Bama because they're in the SEC West. But they've been having a good team every year. They just lose to Alabama, so that knocks them out. Because remember, it's the SEC West, SEC East. If you don't win at SEC West, you can't get in the show. So remember, when they was talking about firing the guy was not losing but the one team. Even going back to Les Miles, he was losing. But when you go on 11-2, 11-1, and you lose to Alabama, but you still respectively 11-1. So when people say that that we're top heavy, or we just, I don't think that's a fair assessment, because those guys just can't beat that one team. I mean, and when you think about it, there's a lot of people can't beat that one team. Okay. So, and see, this is another thing too now. This is another thing you have to be careful about. And this is what Michigan is learning. You have to be careful when you fire that coach, because he can't win the game. Then you get another guy come in and he can't win games. You know what I'm saying? You got Jim Harbaugh can't beat Michigan State. He was hired to beat Ohio State. Now you can't beat Michigan State. You know what I'm saying? So you have to be careful when you flip a coach, because he can't beat that one team. Let's be honest. What Nick Saban is doing right now is, I mean, when you think about it, that's compared to the old Canes. It's compared to because that's the only other team I can think. But the Hurricanes did it under like 4 coaches. But that's the only other program I can think where they had like a 10. And Florida State, my bad, I'm sorry. And Florida State with Bobby Bowden, where you have a guy at 15 years of dominance. That's unheard of. Outside of, since Bobby Bowden, that's unheard of, one guy. And then when you look at the coaching staff, we get new coaches every year. We got a new OC this year, new offensive line coach, new defense. I mean, when you look at that's hard to do, to still be winning the way they're winning with a new coaching staff and new players every year like that.
Hey,
you got Dabo.
I think you just made Jason's point. You fought him about the SEC, and you talked about one team. You continue,
but they're losing to one team.
Florida. You mentioned Georgia, but you still right back to Alabama, and so that's
I mentioned LSU as well.
You may toy around with these other names, but yet you bringing it back to Bama.
When you look at LSU,
what does Shannon Sharp call it? It's the Alabama Invitational. It's it. It's like somebody beat Alabama. Okay, well then that's the team out the SEC because those other teams you're talking about. Oh well, they're good. They just can't blah blah blah. Did they make it into the 4? So everybody else thought. Oh,
but when they do make it in the 4, you guys go to crying saying SEC shouldn't have 2 teams in there. Because to me, Florida was better. Florida was better than you last year. Florida was better than you. They was better than Ohio State, and they was better than Notre Dame. Do you believe that, Kevin? Do you believe that last year?
Jason, they were the best offense in college football by far.
They were an excellent offense.
But they couldn't D up. But I'm just talking about offensively.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. But for you to stand there with a straight face and say Florida hangs in the game by, I don't think it would be close. I don't think 2 touchdowns against Clemson. I do not. I think
last year,
nobody could stop them on offense. Let me tell you, Clemson may have been able to outscore them, but they wouldn't have stopped them. Trust me on that.
Nobody in the country
could. You know how I do. I only jump in different times. I broke their offense down. I told my brother 3 weeks before they played Alabama, if you guys don't show up on offense, you will lose. I said, if you were the Alabama of old where you ran the ball, you get blown out.
Yep.
Did I not say that?
They had spots in that game, but I don't see that at all. I think we would have hung 50 on them. I mean,
and they would have lost. They would have lost by 3. They'd have hung up 45. That's what I'm saying.
I think Ohio State would have beat Florida worse than they beat us.
They wouldn't have put up enough. They wouldn't have put up enough points.
That was our toughest game last year. Nobody else gave us a game but Florida. Nobody.
Yeah, but I mean,
because they weren't physical, Jason. They didn't have to play physical to win. That was the difference between Florida. So you think about you guys, you punch people in the mouth. Well, that you got to the quarterback. You wouldn't have got to him. The ball was gone, Jason. Seriously. Alabama tried everything. Ball gone. Wasn't it back jam?
They had a tight end that was unguardable. You remember that tight end?
Yeah. The tight end.
Nobody could stick him. Nobody.
The slot and the jump ball receivers. 3 of them. They had 3 jump ball receivers.
I got so tired of Jason, people even calling him a tight end. That guy's not a tight end. That guy had 200 yards receiving.
Is it Kyle?
Every game he's getting close to 200 yards. He was not. I got tired of people saying he's a tight end. This guy's 6'6", runs a 4.4, can line up anywhere on the field.
I gotta argue with you about Florida, Jason. I'm with you on everything else, but Florida, listen, they was a problem on offense.
They had Kyle Trask in the Heisman hunt.
Listen, Kyle Trask, to me, Pat Jam will tell you, I never thought he was good, but I told Pat, it don't matter, bro. Look who he throwing it to. You jump ball into 3 receivers? 3?
I think the Bucks found. I think the Bucks found it out the other night with Kyle Trask in the preseason game because he plays for the Bucks. He was throwing interceptions left and right. He threw about 4 of them.
Yeah, listen, because Pat, listen, Florida was a nightmare for everybody because you couldn't go in there talking about you gonna stop nobody because you had Kadarius Toney. Yeah, he had him in the slot. He could have beat you. You know, in space. And then, like you said, you had the tight end or slot receiver, the other slot receiver at Pac Jam. And then you had 3 big time, throw it up, I got it. Like, it was like the Clippers. They was like the LA Clippers, Lob City.
I truly believe that Ohio State could have done better possibly than us against Florida because with Ohio State, that nose tackle, that's really what kept disrupting us. The pressure he got immediately, we just couldn't keep dealing with. That's why Trevor was off. I know what you're talking about, but the nose tackle. What's the first way? What's the first way to get pressure without?
Correct. Absolutely.
Yeah. I think Ohio State could have done a little something against Florida.
But you guys were more. You had to run the ball. You had to establish the run, and you were timing passing system. Florida was gone. Get it out. Get it out. You know what I mean? It was.
Oh, we blocked him with a true freshman.
Because Pat Jam thought that they would be able to get pressure to him, and they were sending the house, and they running down the field.
That same nose tackle, we blocked him with a true freshman. Because Lane Dickerson was out with a torn ACL, so we had a true freshman play center and was blocking that nose tackle from Ohio State.
But if
he back on Alabama, all them teams in the SEC.
That's what, if we take it all the way back to that, how'd it go though? How'd it work out? How'd it go?
What's that? With who?
Where'd it go? Florida.
What do you mean?
But Florida didn't make it.
I'm enjoying it, but we're still, no matter what, it's inevitable. We're all the way back to.
All right, Alabama puts them out.
Yeah. It's the same story.
Yep.
Like it's like your best defense is. Yeah, but man, every year we're gonna have a pretty good kind of sort of number 2 that won't make it.
But the thing is, if you remember, we were sending 2 teams, and all of a sudden the voters and everybody started saying no more 2 SEC teams. Remember that?
You ruined it. Alabama actually ruined it when they went with the 2 losses. That actually,
and Georgia. And then So it's actually back to Alabama again. So It's all roads lead back. It's like Thanos. And where did that get you? Right.
Jason Trent jumped in there and said, "What about the Carolinas?"
I think Sam Howell's going to be a problem.
So,
you just can't.
So how impressed have you been with Carolina not being on the radar at all? And then Matt Brown shows up back in town, and by year 2, they're in the conversation talking about upsetting y'all. By year 2, not
and they did almost.
Not
and
3, 4. Yeah, and they should have. Yeah,
that's one of those games.
Admitted after that game, I don't know how we got out of that.
It's like when Alabama would lose to Ole Miss, or like when Alabama would have a close game, and it would always make me remember. I would give you all the yeah buts. Well, yeah, but if they done this, if they'd have done that, and you're like, yeah, but they didn't because they stopped. It's one of those situations where, man, those kids. I mean, because most of those kids weren't his recruits yet.
Right.
So it's just that is the difference when you come. Well, you got a guy too without the quarterback.
Well, let's think about it though, Jason. One thing Pac Jam will share, and both of us remembered Mac Brown saying when he was on television, and it's the second or third time I've said this on the show, is he said, his biggest mistake was missing that quarterback. And I will have 4 or 5 on the roster every year from now on. And if you think about North Carolina now, it's hard for us to mention the other guys, but we always know who that QB is.
I think it's hard to say that they're really going to threaten because I know that we're just too complete for them. But I mean, I think they're going to throw up points on a lot of teams, and I think they're going to embarrass somebody in a bowl game.
Hey, don't sleep on Ty Chandler. A lot of people don't know who that is, but they're going to find out very quickly who Ty Chandler is. Ty Chandler is the running back from Tennessee. He transferred to North Carolina, and he's the starting running back in North Carolina right now.
I didn't know that.
He is. A lot of people don't know nothing about this guy, but you wouldn't know about him after week 1. He is an animal.
Well, they had 2 animals,
and we know what they had last year. And
both of them
got drafted. Both of them went.
Listen, everybody in ACC glad both of them go.
Well, I mean, with us though,
especially Miami, they ran for over 500 yards on Miami.
I didn't see that. That game was awful. That was like one of those games where it's like Miami lacked consistency, but you didn't think they were that team last year. You know what I mean? So that was rough. But I think they're going to lose 3 games. That's what I think in North Carolina. I mean, I don't think they could possibly get out of there with this 1 loss because I think they're going to lose to a Wake Forest and nobody's going to know why. You know that's going to happen. There's going to be a situation where Mac Brown is like, well, I thought I prepared them, and but at the end of the day, he just doesn't have enough kids, to where you can still get schemed against if you don't have, like Alabama, you can only scheme so much, but Mike Tyson, everybody playing to get punched in the face. Well, you can have North Carolina, like you can have them, because you may not get punched in the face. So I think they're going to lose to a Louisville randomly, and then they're going to beat somebody they shouldn't, and then, have a good bowl game. I think it sucks because I think Sam Howell is probably going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the country this year, and it's not going to get him anywhere. I think he's going to Mitchell Trubisky his way onto I don't even know the team to throw out there anymore who doesn't have a quarterback. But I think that they're going to waste the Sam Howell years, not intentionally, just by time. And then I think the Sam Howell tenure is going to get them some recruits that they won't have a quarterback to play with in the next couple cycles. That's what I think of North Carolina.
Jason, let's stay in the ACC real quick. And Pac Jam, I want you to chime in on this. With the ACC now trying to do this alliance with the Big Ten and the Pac-12, where should Notre Dame fall in? Should the ACC demand, hey, either you in or you out, but you're not going to just leech off of the benefits and keep all your money to yourself? Should that be a demand? Should they draw a line in the sand right now about that?
I don't, the thing about it is, I don't believe the ACC can do that to Notre Dame, and I'm going to tell you why. I mean, they can say it, but the reason why
should they say it and then you can go ahead.
I don't think they should say it now because they got bigger things going on that they don't even really need to know more. But what I think needs to happen is, to me, I think the way you force Notre Dame is by teams saying we're not going to play you. The problem is Pac-12, Big Ten, ACC, SEC, they're giving them games. You see what I'm saying? As long as the Power 5 schools are giving Notre Dame games, you're giving them reason not to join a conference. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But if they say, you know what, go play BYU and Air Force and Army, we're not playing you no more. That'll force Notre Dame to join a conference. But they're getting the best of both worlds. They got NBC in their back pocket, and all the Power Fives are giving them games. And as long as Michigan giving them game, or ACC and the SEC giving them games, they're going to do that. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And I think those ADs should come together in the Power Five and say, you know what? No, none of us playing Notre Dame no more.
Jason, jump in there.
It's hard. So I don't think they belong in the ACC. Like, I feel like they should stay. I don't know. For me, it comes back to, I know it's totally separate, but the Texas and Oklahoma thing. Like, well, I don't understand why we need to keep consolidating in the conferences. And I think stay the heck out. We don't want their money. Don't need their money. They don't want ours. They don't need ours. I get the interconference play. That's cool. SC was kicking that idea around a little bit. We're in talks with the Pac-12 about doing a little bit of that. I think that's the way to do it. Stay out of conferences. Stay out of super conferences. Play more. Just play more. Stay wherever the heck you are, whatever the heck you are, and just play more.
You know how both of you keep arguing that the ACC, Pac-Jam feels like the ACC is top heavy. You feel like the SEC is top heavy. What's going on is they're saying college football is top heavy. So why don't we consolidate all the ones that matter and kick everybody else to the side? So that's where the need is coming from.
But can't you address that through scheduling and not conferencing?
But then you got the money that gets involved, and a Texas Alabama game every other year is sweet in the pockets. You know what I mean? Right now,
the reason why it's top heavy
is once every 10 years or through a playoff system. But Texas is Texas, even though they're the same as Dallas, the Cowboys. They still matter.
I do get it, because then you get the guarantee. You don't have to worry about the politics of will they take the game or not if they're in the conference. But I think that's just, well, when you say kick everybody out, where are they going to go? They're going to just make other conferences? I mean, are they just going to have little baby conferences? They're going to, you know what I mean? Like,
no, yeah. Nobody else will matter. The issue is now Oklahoma, Texas was really the only thing holding the Big 12 together when the SEC leashed off of them just a couple years ago, right? So then Texas threatened to leave then, and then they backed out. They were going to become independent and become Notre Dame, and they stayed. But now they're leaving, so that blows up that entire Big 12. Now you get Baylor that has to make a choice. I would love for them to come to the ACC, if I had my way, Jason. But they'll probably end up in the Pac-12. You got TCU, then probably end up in the Pac-12. Then you got teams like Nebraska's already made the change earlier to the Big Ten, and Iowa State gone to the Big Ten. You know what I'm saying? So all of a sudden, we blink our eyes twice, and you're really not saying the Power 5. You're screaming Power 4. And really with this new conglomerate that's being, kind of put together by the ACC, Big Ten, Pac-12, you're really talking about two conferences now.
But then what are you going to do when somebody emerges from the Pac-12 then? You know what I mean? So I feel like what's going to happen is, because I get what you're, well, then you're going to have 14 playoff, blah, blah, blah. Well, if you're going to put all the good teams in one conference, you're going to have to get the two out of one conference somehow. So you don't really help.
Remember now, we're screaming 8. Everybody's screaming 8, not 4. So doesn't that play right into that?
I'm screaming 6 with 2 getting a first round bye. That's all. I think that's perfect.
Okay, right? well, I'll agree with you. But it's an easier thing to do having all these games already be played. Now it's an easier argument. Right now, though, when Clemson's playing 3 cupcakes, and then you get an emergence, an emergent out of the Pac-12. Clemson's in, and now they're not in. USC's not in because they played 4 cupcakes. You know what I mean? And the Pac-12 was down, so they don't get in. Clemson gets in, and we're having this conversation, but through this relationship, they played a big-time team in the Big 12 or a mediocre team that just upset a big-time team in the Big 10. Or played a mediocre team that's upset a Michigan, or, well, I don't even know if you call it upset with Michigan anymore. Sorry. but maybe they upset who good? Ohio State. Now all of a sudden that's a huge win, and it boosts that Pac-12 up. I'm just saying you got those guaranteed games now, when before Pac Jam, those games weren't guaranteed.
So are you?
But now you got the Alliance now.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I was arguing about, letting Jason know this is why it's important, because now you're having these real arguments, and you can put real games on the board and not say, well, they beat this one by that many, and that one hung in with that one by this many, and that one they got upset by them. Like, that's what the conversation is.
I would rather see Clemson play at Oregon than Clemson play at Wake Forest.
Me too.
Because we know Wake Forest is not going to put. Because see, what happens is this, Jason. This is what the problem is, that we're not that. Well, I understand what's going on too. You as well, is they're not. Those schools don't have the monies like these other schools, and they're not trying to put the money in that direction.
Absolutely.
Wake Forest says, listen, we are fine with putting $10-15 million into our laboratories and coming up with a new medicine and a new this. They're not. So we can't expect those teams all of a sudden to say, we're going to go pay a coach $6-7 million a year to turn our program around. They're not going to do that. So since we know that, you bring the alliance together, ACC, Big 10, Pac-12, you got Oregon, USC, you got Ohio State, Penn State, and you got Clemson, North Carolina. Let's get it on, because we know that's what it is anyway.
I think you'd have to blow the whole thing up to get. I mean, I agree. I think what you're describing is it, but gosh, man, look how hard it is to get anything done. How are we going to blow the whole thing up to get there? You know what I mean?
Well, it's not going to get blown up.
It's not going to get blown up.
I take that back. What you're seeing is it blowing up in front of your face. You're just not seeing. You're not smelling the smoke. The smoke's invisible. We're watching it. We're watching it blow up. The team, this alliance. That's what I keep trying to tell y'all. Yeah, they're still separate, but it's 2 conferences. Once this alliance forms, there'll be enough important games scheduled every year that we'll never again have to make this argument about who deserves to be in. We're going to be able to pull the schedule, and we're going to be able to see that, Auburn, they went to the Pac-12 and they beat Arizona State. You know what I mean? At Arizona State. And so they ended up, getting dismantled or destroyed, by Georgia. So Georgia's a beast. That's what's going to happen.
But we're okay.
It'll be 1 degree of separation instead of 7 that we've been dealing with.
Where's the bottom go? Like, okay, so if we're seeing the top come in, but where's the flip side? Like what he's describing.
Well, listen. Let me throw my knee up here. Dude, still, we ain't going nowhere. Okay, okay. Let me throw that out there. We ain't going anywhere. But you still need those games, because guess what you just said about North Carolina, and they're gonna upset somebody.
Yeah.
So you send North Carolina. Look what they do in bowl game. You send North Carolina against SC, thinking that it's a win for SC.
Boston College SC a couple years ago. Remember that one? Yeah. But nobody's saying that about Wake Forest.
Right, but you still need. Listen, this ain't the NFL. You cannot play 12 tough games. So you still need those games. But at
It's just
least
like Northwestern.
it's in
Northwestern's
your
going to upset somebody in the Big Ten every year.
every year. Yeah, you still need them.
It's either going to be Penn State, Ohio State, or it's going to be Iowa. But Northwestern's going to get one of them.
We ain't seen them upset Ohio State.
No, but I'm saying they did take Ohio State to the end, but then Justin Fields woke up, remember?
Right.
Who did?
Because he
who
was
did
throwing
that?
the game away in the Big Ten championship, remember?
Yeah, it was Penn State, Jason.
No, but
I'm saying no, that was Northwestern.
Right.
And then finally, Justin Fields said, "Oh, we playing football today," and then he crunk up in the fourth quarter. But I'm just saying, it was about to happen.
But Maryland almost got Ohio State too. Don't forget that.
Correct.
Right.
That's why I'm telling you, those teams, they're a game plan away. They're hey man, we got these boys, 18 to 23-year-olds, and nowadays 28-year-olds down there in Miami. But you're a game plan away from young guys laxing and being like, oh, we'll beat them in their sleep, from getting upset. Remember, guys, under the head coach that Rutgers got now, he made a living doing that.
I don't think. What are we, 10 years away though from all this? I mean, if we're really being honest, like, it sounds quicker, but there's going to be so much in the middle of that. I think
you got to think about
it from this.
If you remember, who was it? One of the Big Ten ADs said, we haven't thrown away the future schedules yet. What's his comment, Jason? Like
Which one?
No, we ain't canceled scheduling because it's put out 5 years or so in advance. And he's saying, hold your horses. We ain't thrown those away yet. So that's why I'm telling you we're there.
But you know what I mean? Like, if that's Ohio State, okay, all right. If it's Michigan, but if it's Iowa, like, I don't know that, you know what I mean? Like, if it's that guy, I don't know that we'd really.
Yeah, it was one of the bigger programs, but honestly, Jason, you'd be surprised when it gets to the AD level. It's not like you think. It's not just all of a sudden that guy that's at that AD at Ohio State is running the show. You know what I mean? For the entire conference. There's a pecking order within there, and there are guys that have been sitting there as commissioners for 10, 15, 20 years. And guess what happens? As ADs for 10, 15, 20 years. And guess what? He's the lead dog when it comes to that conference. So it's just not an automatic thing.
Didn't something like that go down in the Pac-12 a couple of years ago?
Absolutely.
Where, the Stanford guy overruled everything, and they were like,
"Yep." So it's just not like how you may just think of it. So I don't remember who it was, but it was a mover or shaker, and they don't interview him. You see what I'm saying?
If you could choose, then which would you have? Conferences stay the same, expand the playoff, or super conference, but no expanded playoff. Pick your poison.
So me, like, I love the fact that the guys are getting paid, but you start adding more games, Jason, you know where I'm going with it. Make them pros. So that's if you make them pros, let's throw the games out there.
I think so you want the super conferences.
Excuse me?
You want the super conferences in?
I think we're there already. I just don't think it's in the mindset that you're thinking. We'll never get. It's too much money to be lost for a real super conference. So you still got to keep the separation for the television contracts. Yeah. You see what I mean? And you're gonna get and you got to keep. Let's again throw Duke in there. We ain't no good in football, but guess why you need us? Football ain't year round. You see what I'm saying? So what kind of decisions are you making when you're saying who's going, who's leaving? It's not just football that's involved, which is why UCF wasn't invited to a conference, a Power 5. It's because the only thing they could throw at everybody, look at our football program, look at what we've done. And that wasn't enough. These other programs are able to throw other sports at.
I think Here's what I think. I think what would be more productive, probably more difficult. What if you could separate? Hear me out. What if you could separate conference by sport, like Duke basketball, ACC, but maybe football being a different conference or sub-conference.
Yeah, I don't think that's gonna work.
Because how are you gonna justify scheduling the right teams playing each other in football? You know what I mean?
It's just gonna happen naturally because nothing's already set in stone. Meaning, like Pac Jam, you don't know Alabama on any given Saturday is just gonna run up on Washington State and run the table on them. You know what I mean? Washington State may go and they get a flashback of the old coach that's now at Mississippi State, and they may hang up 50 on them. I'm just saying, we're reading it like we already know the ending to the stories, and then especially in the Big Ten, like that might mess them up completely. Ohio State gonna get that loss now. You know what I mean? You start playing out of conference.
Where have they said where Texas and Oklahoma are going to go in the SEC? I mean, are we just assuming the West? I mean, are they just going to be SEC?
No, they haven't made an announcement yet.
What would you say? Where are you leaning?
One's going to the East, one going to the West.
Who's who?
They're going to take.
I would think they might.
Go ahead.
I would think Texas would probably be on the East, and Oklahoma would be on the West.
Wow.
I think
Alabama's which side?
Alabama's on the West.
And that would be a man. That's again, Jason. You know how much money interconference? Like that's a bowl game.
So, do you guys agree? It feels like there's some identities between the West and the East. You know what I mean? The East hasn't really been that tough. Like, gosh, man, those Auburn Alabama games. Mike, I mean, you can hear it on the Georgia a little bit, but they really only get up for certain games. Like, you know what I mean? Alabama's just up every game. Those LSU Alabama games, hard. I don't see Oklahoma ever being that. You know what I mean? I can see Oklahoma and Georgia having some track meet games, Oklahoma and Florida. I don't see Texas at all, but I see them. I don't know. I don't see Oklahoma fitting with the identity of the SEC West at all. I see them as far more of an SEC East team, if you kind of get what I'm saying. But I mean, we're all just gonna sit and pretend like Jimbo Fisher ain't at Texas A&M and getting better. You know what I mean? Like
he gets no respect from me.
But Jimbo, Jason, Jimbo's problem in what? What is Jimbo's problem has been since he's been a head coach? Defense. What is his problem? Defense. Jimbo goes hard on the recruiting trail for one thing: offense. And he don't get no defense. And then he gets in big games and he act like he's another one that calls all the plays too. He doesn't have an OC. And he gets in those games just like your boy Gus Malzahn, and he feel like if you think about it, Chip Kelly, Gus Malzahn, Jimbo Fisher, they're all the same person. They feel like their play calling is better than anything you put on the opposite side of the field against them. You know what I'm saying? They feel like they can X and O out of anything. But the thing is, they have no hardware to prove it. They got an upset here and there, but they have no hardware. They have no trophies to say that what they're doing is works. All of them hang their hat on an upset, but you ain't won nothing. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah, but the point I was making though is I could see him winning it. I mean, he just got there.
They got all the experts say that Alabama's gonna. All the experts, the so-called college experts this season, have all predicted Alabama to lose Game 6 at Texas A&M.
Have they really?
And I'll go on record and say, if we lose, it won't be that one. That'll be our only blowout of the year. That'll be our biggest win of the year, and then we get knocked in the mouth against your boy over there at Ole Miss right now. What is his name, Kevin? I can't think his name right now.
Yo coach.
Kiffin.
Yeah.
I'm liable to lose against Kiffin who everybody got me favored to blow out, and then I go blow out the guy everybody got me favored to lose against, would be Jimbo.
Yeah.
I didn't know that they were favored to lose that, or they were. I think
That's
Jimbo's
the game everybody has marked for Alabama to lose this year is at Texas A&M, game number 6.
I don't believe him. I don't believe in him that much. I'm gonna take that down a peg. I don't believe in him that much. I think that Alabama's too complete. Kind of exactly what you said. The defense. I don't see A&M. I see them hanging in there on that first quarter. You know, cut the commercial break. They're down by 7. You know what I mean? Close game. Halftime down by 10. They're can't. What happens every third quarter ever?
To me, that's why I mean, and that's another thing me and Kevin argue about too, but I got to give it to Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin has some plays dialed in when he go against Alabama, man, that has Nick Saban losing his mind. Right. I mean, Lane be out there. Go ahead.
He outsmarts kids. That's what Lane Kiffin does. You know what I'm talking about? I think I've said it to Kevin before. He knows the coaching they're going to get, and he uses that against them. Lane Kiffin just outsmarts kids. He makes them think they're seeing something that they won't, and he knows the coaching they got, and he just fools them right quick. But that's why it never lasts. He'll get them a little bit, and then they'll just dumb down the defense. They're like, "Hey, play base, play
right
base. In front of you can't beat you. Play base," and then it won't. You know what I mean? So you're right, but I don't see Lane Kiffin as a threat. They'll be like, "All right, let's just calm this down."
Remember, Jason, just a season ago, or maybe his season ago, they were on the ropes and everybody thought Alabama was gonna lose. Like Lane got on top of them fast. Alabama had to come back and have a heck of a game offensively to pull that one out. But Lane got on top quick.
That game, Nick Saban had like a stroke on the sideline.
Yep.
Like yeah. And what was he screaming? Stop it! Don't read nothing. Like that kid in front of you ain't gonna beat you. Just play base. And I think, but Jimbo doesn't have to trick you. Like he's got some stuff that'll fool the coaches. Like that's my different opinion of Lane Kiffin. Maybe I'm wrong there. Lane will fool the player. Jimbo will fool the coach. Like, you know what I mean? He'll come out. He did it to us in Death Valley. There was 6 or 7 plays where I'm like, oh no, that's different. You know what I mean? It's that stupid pistol play action thing, and I'm like, was that even legal? I thought you had to do a thing. Like, so I think that's why I think Jimbo has a shot to compete. He ain't gonna be at Alabama this year, but I think he's got a shot to make. They can finish second in the West. They can finish ahead of Auburn. I mean, I think that they'll compete. I think that they'll not make the SEC championship game, but next year, like year after this year, Jimbo might beat Alabama.
Well, Pat Jam, what teams will you watch to determine how the Final Four looks? And the same question going to be pushed to you next, Jason.
Well, I think we'll know the Final Four to me, I think will be figured out week 1.
Wow. This week? And
I don't mean that. Not tomorrow Saturday
and WEEK.
Right. Not tomorrow. Right. Not tomorrow Saturday, but next Saturday in the Georgia-Clemson game. And I'm gonna tell you why. I'm gonna tell you why that game's gonna make it. That game's gonna determine everything for the Pac-10, SEC, ACC, and the Big 12 in one game. And I'm gonna tell you why. If Georgia beats Clemson, that means Carolina has to go undefeated. They can't lose to Clemson or nobody. You understand what I'm saying?
Wow.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If Clemson beats Georgia, that means that SEC East side, Florida has to go undefeated. And that means on the SEC West side, you can't lose to that team, to that Florida team.
Mm-hmm.
You see?
I can see an SEC team losing twice and still being in the title game.
No, but what I'm saying, reason why I said,
how does that transition to the rest of the country? Like,
I'm gonna tell you why.
You just settled 2 conferences.
Right. The Pac-12, nobody's going undefeated. The Pac-12 is the average conference. Nobody's going undefeated.
Okay.
The best team in the Pac-12 will have 2 losses. Okay. It's a mediocre conference. They cancel each other out.
I can see that.
They're not sending nobody to the game. You know what I mean?
And then you
Big
got
12 is only
Notre
going to send
Dame and
the Big
and
12,
the Big 10.
and the Big 12 is only going to right.
No,
But see,
Notre
Notre
Dame
Dame,
and the Big 10. I just
right? But see, the good thing about Notre Dame is Notre Dame still plays 6 ACC teams,
yep.
and I don't believe Notre Dame's going 6-0 in ACC this year. They're not
Jason,
that
and
good.
that's why my argument would have been, and I didn't ask myself to give my own opinion, is we have to draw the line in the sand and tell them either join us or get out. And because we're getting them in, Jason. Like
Yeah.
we're the reason why they're going.
I think the hubris. God, it's like, did they not know they're in Indiana? First off, like, can we discuss that? Like, but if I want to start off my four, I'm gonna go Alabama, Clemson, Oklahoma. Fourth one's tough, man. I think Oklahoma is going to do just enough to go ahead and get blown out round one in the playoffs. But that fourth one, I don't know. Pick another SEC team. I mean, you could go Ohio State, but I think they're going to take a step back. I think they got the rest of the talent, but everything I'm hearing is they're not super impressed with their quarterback because it took this long to call it.
Right.
And back in the day, I mean, look, they had loaded teams, but JT Barrett. I don't mean to say that way, but you know what I mean. Cardale
Right.
Jones. So I feel like we're going to have that Ohio State again this year. So that's why I can't automatically put them in. I think head to head, I think Ohio State would beat Oklahoma because they're more loaded. But I think Oklahoma is going to put enough highlights, on Sports Center that they're going to get in. They're going to cruise through the Big 12, and I think they're going to be. It's going to be another 2 SEC teams.
I don't think they cruise to the Big 12. They get one loss.
Really? Who do you think it's going to be?
Iowa State.
They're scrappy. I can see that. And them leaving is going to open the door for Iowa State to finally.
And the thing too is that I mean, he may win the Heisman, but the thing about it, I don't think he may win. I don't think he'll win it though because his interception ratio. He's high risk, high reward. Spencer Rattler.
Okay. Yeah. Iowa State's QB.
Oklahoma's quarterback.
Oh, okay.
He's high risk, high reward. Remember, he got benched last year. Remember last year they benched him. He benched him last year. I think that was was the Iowa State game he benched him in. Or was it the Texas game he benched him in? It was either Texas or the Iowa State game, but he got benched last year.
Maybe was it TCU? Maybe I'm serious. I do now.
I remember it was a big game. He got benched because he's another high risk, high reward. He's a gambler.
It was.
He's one of those guys. He's gonna put it up. He's gonna go deep, deep, deep.
He got benched against Texas.
Wow. Okay, that's what I said. I told you he's a high risk, high reward guy.
Yeah, I think. Who's your four, Kevin? Kalu?
Well, you didn't follow my question. I said, what 4 teams will you be watching to determine? Oh. Yeah, so Iowa State is one of those teams because I think they'll upset Oklahoma. So I'm watching them to see because they were undefeated for what? I think they were 6-0 at one point last season. So I'm watching them to see how much noise they can make to really change what we're used to seeing come out of the Big 12. Out there in the Pac-12, I'm looking at Arizona State. That was a team that had some early victories and then had some tough losses that could have went either way. And, I don't know how long my boy Herm going to have a job. You see the NCAA after him. They, during Corona, they wanted to show the campus a little bit still. And, I mean, I ain't see no problem with that, but the NCAA saw differently.
It's 140 degrees outside. Bacteria can't live. He didn't do nothing wrong. He's in Phoenix. So the question is, what roadblock teams or what stumbling block teams are we watching? Well,
it's just I think these are the type teams that's going to determine what happens. I kind of think I'm looking at Arizona State and Oregon out west that, I'm looking at Arizona State, man. I think they're much. You got to remember, Herm just got there and they're in the conversation. Like, It would not shock me if they begin to run the table And guess what? Antonio Pierce is one of the hottest names, in coaching right now, based on what he's been able to do defensively for them. And they got about 4 other former NFL players coaching there. And guess where all their kids coming? Right there. And guess what? Antonio Pierce is from California. Guess who's loading up Arizona State again? California. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of things happening right there, right under our noses, that I think people are ignoring. So again, I'm looking at Iowa State. I'm looking at out there, Arizona State. Then I'm switching over to ACC, and you got to look at North Carolina, and you got to figure out, is this the year? You know what I mean? And that's where they've had us for the last 3 years. Is this the year? Yeah. But it's crazy because they play so well, so solid on defense, and so well on offense that you have to pay attention. And
well, we thought the year was 2 years ago when they was on the 3-yard line.
Right. Right. So, and then my fourth team is, I hate to say it, but Notre Dame, because they get to mix it up with a couple conferences. They get to mix it up in, the Pac-12. They mix it up a lot with the ACC, and then they always mix it up with a team or two in the Big Ten. So that's why, again, guys, they're always mentioned in the conversation. They get a nudge because they're one of the few programs that can say, we played everybody. And probably the only program that can say it. So I hate to support them because I'm not a fan. But like Jason said earlier in this show, we'll schedule it. And that's what they've done. They're the only team in the country to schedule it.
I mean, if I had to say, I would go, I'm going to watch TCU out of the Big 12 because I believe Gary Patterson he'll have the kids ready for somebody.
He's been down, Jason, for like the last 4 years. He is not.
He's been down. I think the program, his ability to recruit. I think Jimbo hurt. I think being able to pull out of Texas. Now people are like, oh, I might go to A&M. You know what I mean? Right. And then Baylor's little resurgence and then fall. I think they're going to benefit from Baylor's little slip back. Losing Matt Rule, but I think TCU could be a team that could get in somebody else's way. And then North Carolina. I mean, you can't ignore that. I think that Sam Howell is going to be invited to New York. I don't know that he'll win it, but he'll be up there because he'll have some absurd. He'll have 5 or 6 plays that'll get him drafted early, and despite how short he is, and nobody's going to understand how or why. And I think that he's going to excitingly keep them in some games. But honestly, I think exactly what Pac Jam said. I think Georgia-Clemson is going to answer more questions about this college football season, way far beyond just 2 teams in one game. Because it's going to set for what Georgia's going to have to do. It's going to set the stage for what Clemson's going to have to do and what other teams in those conferences are going to have to do to get in the conversation. Because if Clemson loses, Dabo will not have trouble getting those kids up for every ACC game.
Hey, what I mean? So let me please throw this at you so that I can prove my point about Notre Dame. Like, get it perfect, guys. It's for both of y'all. In their schedule, they're playing number 12 Wisconsin, number 8 Cincinnati, number 15 USC, and number 10 North Carolina. They're back if they actually run the table or get anywhere close. They get one loss. How do you keep a schedule like that out? I ain't even named the other teams. I just named you the preseason ranked team. That just touched the entire country, y'all.
And who's to say SC won't sort of kind of win a few games, look okay? We will know that they're not for real, but get a little number next to their name, and Notre Dame beat them then too. Because when do they play SC? Towards the end of the year, right?
October 23rd.
Yeah, so who's to say SC ain't going to be a one-loss team with a little number 11 next to their name, and then boom, now Notre Dame's like, oh, we beat the number 11 team too. So, the more you say it, it's kind of hard to argue. It's kind of hard to argue them out there. Mike Golick somewhere is like screaming, but I don't see. Do you see him competing with anyone they would get matched up against? Even now,
I mean, the schedule that I'm talking about, that this alliance will start, is the schedule they're already playing. That's what I'm
interviewing
talking
them
about.
golf?
Jay. So when
You got an AB position up there?
hey, when you're asking me what will it do, it's gonna do that. Now you tell me teams looking like that, you ain't gonna be able to tell who's the best. You can't pick them out of that. You don't need to be picking.
Yeah, but it's like, okay, but why is the worst team? Well, not the worst, but why is that team the one doing it? You know what I mean?
I ain't into that. I'm just telling you why I'm watching that team, and both of you, I don't know, somehow ignored them, and I'm like, that's the only team in the country playing everybody. You can throw Clemson, Alabama, top 10 all they want to, but they ain't playing a schedule close to it.
We just didn't notice because they're not great. You know, it's really just what it is. Honestly, that should make them so much better. They should be so much more prepared. Now that you mention all this, how are they still getting blown? Well, we know how they're getting blown out. It's because that 5-star that sat through all of that talking is like, thank you very much. I'm still going to Alabama, but nice gold helmets. I do appreciate the visit. I appreciate, like that. The trenches is where Notre Dame loses every year. I mean, every time they get matched up against a team that matters. I mean, they are blown off the ball. Ian Book was getting all that credit for that magic. Why was he having to make it? Why was he having to go to the sideline and pray? So is he back or is he out?
No, he's out.
Oh, okay. Who they got now?
Hey, listen, they always go out west to get them guys too. They go to California. They load up in California, just like all the smart teams. Pac Jam. If there's anything else you wanted to say?
No, that's it. We covered everything.
Well, we appreciate you, Jay Brock, Pac Jam, man. Y'all lit
appreciate
it up.
You, Jay.
I'm gonna need y'all to come back Monday. MB ain't gonna be here again. And boy, you guys know y'all football. I'm just glad to be in the number, baby. Appreciate y'all.
I don't know what I'm talking about.
All right. See you.
Well, for MBK Lou sideline and baseline, Jay Brock with the orange tinted glasses, and Pac Jam, the realest co-host in sports. We'll holler. We gone.